Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is a servant of the living God. Hope everyone out there is doing well. Today, I want to testify, and I perceive that Father has put it in my spirit to testify about something that He showed me some time ago regarding the book of the prophet Daniel, and this is regarding, of course, if you're familiar with that chapter, it's regarding the ram with the two horns and the goat, the rough goat, of course, representing the kingdom of Persia and Media and the kingdom of Greece. So let's go ahead and listen to Daniel chapter 8, verses 1 through 12, then verses 20 through 26.
Chapter 8. In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw, that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up mine eyes, and saw, and, behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward, and northward, and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will, and became great. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great, toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced, and prospered. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Gracia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance, and understanding dark sentences, shall stand up. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper, and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. And the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true, wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days.
Okay, so a lot to talk about here. Let's go ahead and start with the ram with the two horns. Okay, it talks about how the two horns are the kings of Media in Persia, and in the first few verses, it says that the second horn came up last, and that it was longer than the first horn. Now, due to what the angel told Daniel regarding the two horns regarding what kingdoms they were, it's evident that in order, the first and the shorter horn was the king or the kingdom of Media. And the second horn, the longer horn that came up last, that one is the kingdom or king of Persia. Now this represents that the kingdom of Persia lasted longer, or was superior to the kingdom of Media. And this really makes a lot of sense, because if you go to the to Daniel 7, and where the four beasts are shown to Daniel, the kingdom of Media and Persia is the second beast that was mentioned in Daniel 7, and that's the bear with the 3 ribs in its mouth. And in the testimony that I gave regarding this, it's in the testimony that I gave a few months ago. It was called the Four Kingdoms. And in the second kingdom, that was the bear, the 3 ribs in it, I testified that those 3 ribs were Darius, Cyrus, and Xerxes, or Artaxerxes. And now if you look into these kings and from what seed they were, you will realize and you will find out that Darius was the Mede. He was the king of Media. And Cyrus and Artaxerxes, they were the kings that came from the seed of the Persians. So it seems to me like the kingdom of Persia indeed had more kings than Media. That's what I think, honestly. And with that being mentioned, as you recall, brothers and sisters, when Judah, after the 70 years of them being in captivity, when Father moved the heart of the king to bring the people back to Judah, he moved the heart of Cyrus. And I think this also contributes as to why the interpretation is that the kingdom of Persia is the horn of the kingdom of Persia was longer than the horn of the kingdom of Media. And I also want to tell y'all something that I perceive that the Father revealed to me regarding this kingdom. It turns out, after much studying, after much praying, and asking Jehovah to give me wisdom and understanding regarding this, he revealed to me that these two kingdoms, the kingdom of Media and Persia, they, at one point, brothers and sisters, there was 2 kings ruling that kingdom at the same time, both the kingdom of Media and the kingdom of Persia. And this explains why, when you read the books like Zechariah, the books that were written, that give account of the children of Judah, their return to Judah after the 70 years of being in Babylon. It seems like if you don't understand what's going on and what's taking place, it seems like it's pretty confusing, because it mentions Darius, it mentions Cyrus, and it kind of confuses you, because it's like it's saying 2 things at one time. It's mentioning 2 kings at one time around the same time that things were going on, especially in the beginning of the return of the captivity of the children of Judah. And when you go to the book of Daniel, you'll see that when after Belshazzar, which was the last king that Babylon had from the seed of the Babylonians, after he blasphemed and brought in Jehovah's vessels, his golden vessels, and all those things from the when he brought them into when he brought them into his temple with his gods, whatever he worshipped, and how he was drinking from them, how that same night he was killed. And the first king that was mentioned that reigned after Belshazzar was Darius the Mede. And you go to Zechariah and Nehemiah, and and it mentions Cyrus. These three kings, Darius, Cyrus, and Artaxerxes, are mentioned a lot throughout these books that I talked about. And it just seems pretty logical that at one point there was both a king in Media and a king in Persia ruling at the same time. Now, did they rule at the same time all the time? No, I don't think so. Because the horn of the king of the Persians was higher than the horn of the king of the Medes. So there you have it, brothers and sisters. That's what Father showed me about the kingdom of Media and Persia. Now, getting to the rough goat that started basically beating up the ram, the kingdom of Media and Persia. Now, notice that it said that it came from the west. Now, that's something to remember as we go along, brothers and sisters. So this goat came and basically took control, and he took the kingdom. And it talks about the first king being that horn that he had in the middle of his head, that was the first king. And after that first horn was broken, 4 notable horns came up towards the 4 winds of heaven. And it says that not after the posterity of that first horn, which was the first king of Greece. And let me tell you, brothers and sisters, this supports the account that was given in the books of Maccabees. That first king of Greece was Alexander, or as he is called, Alexander the Great, as people call him. Of course, not me, There's only one great king, and that's Jehovah. Amen. So, after that first king after he died, he split his kingdom between his servants, as it says in the book of Maccabees. After he died, he split his kingdom up between all his servants. And that is where you see the four horns going towards the 4 winds. So the Greeks actually took control of all the kingdoms of the world at that time. But none of them were the sons of Alexander. None of them were after his posterity. So these 4 kings that went towards the 4 winds of heaven, it doesn't say that one came up after the other, brothers and sisters. It says that they went towards the 4 winds of heaven. All 4 horns went up at the same time towards the 4 winds of heaven. So the kingdoms were the kingdom of the west, the kingdom of the east, the kingdom of the south, and the kingdom of the north, brothers and sisters. And after much praying and after much studying the word, the Father has shown me what these kingdoms are, what the names were of these kingdoms. And let me tell you what I perceive Father showed me regarding this matter. The first kingdom was the kingdom of Greece. It was the remnant of the kingdom of Greece, the kingdom of the west, as I said. And then the second one, being the kingdom of the east, was the kingdom of Asia. And then the third one, meaning the kingdom of the south, was the kingdom of Ptolemy, or Ptolemy, as it is also referred to as in Maccabeus. And this was the kingdom of Egypt. And it also, to my understanding, or maybe I could be wrong, but this kingdom also ruled a couple of countries other than Egypt, but it was mainly the kingdom of Egypt. And the fourth kingdom, meaning the kingdom of the north, that is the Roman kingdom. And there was a Greek also in the throne of the Roman kingdom, just like there was a Greek in the kingdom, in the throne of the kingdom of Egypt. And I have verified this through historical references and documents. I don't know if y'all knew, but in the kingdom of the south, where in the kingdom of Egypt, there was a kingdom of the Ptolemy. That was the name of the man and the name of the kingdom. And as y'all, I don't know if y'all know about this, but his daughter was Cleopatra, and they were Greek. They were Greeks ruling in Egypt. So this is the interpretation of these four kingdoms, brothers and sisters. Now, if we go down to verse 23, where it says, in the latter times, when the transgressors have come to the full, a king shall rise up. It talks about the little horn, rising up, which represents the beast or the Antichrist. So now I'm about to say something, but it's not because I'm trying to be boastful or anything like that. But I've heard an interpretation that's very, very well known of this, of the rough goat with the four horns, is that those four horns represent the four Reichs, the first, second, and the third Reich, and that the fourth horn was, of course, the beast, which that one is somewhat true. It's true, because that is the beast, the little horn that came out of the fourth horn. But the thing is that we need to read verse 23, where it says, when the transgressors have come to the full, and in the latter time of their kingdom. That's very important. When it says in the latter times of their kingdom, that means that these four kingdoms had been ruling from the time that they came up after the horn was broken up until now. And we will indeed verify this by listening to a few verses from chapter 11. But I just want to reiterate again that the true interpretation of this, the vision of this, of the horns, the four horns that came out of the goat, is not the first, second, and third and fourth Reich. It's not that. It's what I just mentioned of the kingdom of the west, east, south, and north, Greece, Asia, Egypt, and Rome. Now, or Ptolemy or Egypt, it's the same. So about the Greek kingdom, which is the west, the reason why I say that's the west is because when you go back to the interpretation when the goat first came, before he attacked the ram, he came from the west, from Greece. So that's what the interpretation is, brothers and sisters. It's not the first, second, and third Reich and fourth. No, it's not that. Just look at verse 23. In the latter times, when the transgressors have come to the full, that's when the cup of the sin is filled up of those kingdoms. So let's go ahead and read Daniel chapter 11, verses 2 through 6. And this is going to cover what I just testified about, and it's going to also confirm about the beast being pretty much, he's the king of the north. And that is also confirmed when you read further down in chapter 11, when it talks about the king of the north and the south making war with each other. I'm sure a lot of you already know that the king of the north is the beast, that he ends up being also the king of the north. But let's go ahead and read chapter 11, Daniel chapter 11, verses 2 through 6.
And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all, and by his strength through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Gracia. And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. And the king of the south shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him, and have dominion, his dominion shall be a great dominion. And in the end of years they shall join themselves together, for the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement, but she shall not retain the power of the arm, neither shall he stand, nor his arm, but she shall be given up, and they that brought her, and he that begat her, and he that strengthened her in these times.
Okay, so the reason why I brought up these verses is mainly because of the time of the part where it talked about the mighty king standing up and how his kingdom is going to be divided towards the 4 towards the 4 winds, even for others besides those. Also, very important thing to see, because obviously, brothers and sisters, obviously there ended up being more than just 4 kingdoms upon the face of the earth. And that's also obvious during the time of the Greek kingdom. There was other, when the kingdom was split into towards the 4 winds, those were the 4 main kings ruling the world. But of course there was other kings besides those. Of course there was. As a matter of fact, there was still a king in Persia. There was still a king in other places. There was many other kings, but those were the 4 main ones that ruled the world. And of course, it also talked about the kingdom of the south and the kingdom of the north being, that is another testimony. But I'm sure, a lot of you already know that the kingdom of the north is indeed the beast. And if it's in the Father's will, and if he reveals something to me about Daniel chapter 11, I will surely testify about it. But right now I just want to focus on chapter 8 about this, the vision of the goat with the horns. So something else, when you go back to Daniel chapter 7, after when you see the bear with the 3 ribs, we got to understand, brothers and sisters, that all the descriptions that were given in Daniel chapter 7 regarding these kings, regarding the kingdoms and how many kings ruled, like with the bear with the 3 ribs in his mouth, does this mean that there were only 3 kings that ruled in Media and in Persia altogether? Just because it only shows the 3 ribs, it only talks about the 3 ribs in the bear's mouth? Of course not. The reason why it only talks about the 3 ribs is because these are the 3 kings that Jehovah, that our Father, these are the 3 kings that he gave dominion, that he gave them the world to rule. That's why, brothers and sisters, that's why. That's exactly why. And then when you go to the 3rd beast that Daniel saw. Now this is the one with the leopard. Okay, this is the one that was the leopard, and it had the 4 wings. It mentioned that it had 4 heads and 4 wings. I just think it's pretty interesting, brothers and sisters, that it mentioned that it had four wings, and then you go to the vision of the goat, of the rough goat, and how the horn, how it got broken, and how four horns came up towards the four winds. So there's that relation right there, brothers and sisters. It's just more confirmation that, as for me, speaking for me, it's just more confirmation that everything that the Father is revealing to me regarding these things, that they are true, that it is true. And getting back to chapter 11, when it mentions that there will be three kings in Persia, and that the fourth shall be the one that will lose dominion to the kingdom of to the king of Greece. The king of Greece was going to fight against the king of Persia, and of course take away the dominion. And that's what happened. That's when the kingdom was transferred from the Persians and Medes to the Greeks. So notice that it talked about how it said the Persians, that three more kings in Persia and all these things. These, like I told you, these there was many kings from these kingdoms. There was many kings, but not all of them ruled the whole world. Not all of them did. Father only showed us the ones that did rule the whole world. Okay, so I just wanted to get that out there, because I know it can be confusing, but that's what it is. That's the truth. You can see examples of this, in the fourth beast that Daniel saw with, and also the beast that John saw with the 7 heads and the 10 horns, the 7 heads representing the 7 kings, and that 5 were fallen. And how I talked about in that testimony, the 4 kingdoms, that those 5 were, like Augustus and Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. And like I testified before Augustus, which was the first kingdom the first king that received dominion to, like, he ruled the whole world. Does that mean that he was the first king of Rome? Of course not. There was other kings before him. In fact, one of the most prominent ones was Julius Caesar. He didn't rule the whole world. He just ruled the province of Greece. But Father didn't count him in that. He didn't count him because he didn't rule the whole world. So, and we see this now, even today. There are people like, as an example, maybe like the president of the United States, or even as like a straight up dictator, like in North Korea. Do these men, do they rule the whole world? No, they don't, but they have their respective dominions, but they're not mentioned or counted in the book of Revelations. Father is only talking about the ones that ruled the whole world, that got major dominion. Another example is Nebuchadnezzar. Now, Father, he raised up Nebuchadnezzar, and he was actually the first king to take possession of all the kingdoms of the world. Does that mean that he was the first king of Babylon? No, there was a king before him in Babylon. I think I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I think it was Merodach Baladan or something like that. But he's mentioned in the book of Isaiah. He's the one that went to go visit King Hezekiah after he was sick. There was already a king in Babylon. This was before Father raised up Nebuchadnezzar. So that's just another example, brothers and sisters. So I just wanted to, get that. I just wanted to talk about that and explain. And so anyway, that's what it is, brothers and sisters. that's the vision that Daniel had. That's what it's all about. That's what the kingdom of Greece is all about. And that's what's going on, brothers and sisters. I hope that y'all received this testimony. I thank y'all for listening to my testimony, and I hope and pray y'all have a blessed and good day. Shalom.